From Blackfoot to Teton, we've got your District 6 breakdown right here on the East Idaho Prepcast with Lance Taylor.
That's right. It's another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. I'm Brandon Baney. He's Lance Taylor. You can get this audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts. You can also get the video version of this at the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel or Facebook page. We're breaking down everything in Districts 5 and 6 week in, week out in the state of Idaho. And the East Idaho Prepcast is brought to you by Pure Adrenaline Motorsports, your source for pulse-pounding adrenaline sports apparel and accessories that ensure you have what you need to unleash your inner beast. If you're watching the video version of this Prepcast, you can see Lance has a nice, it's not monogrammed, but you've got a nice, like a flannel shirt.
Embroidered, embroidered flannel. Part of our lifestyle series, pureadrenalinemotorsports.com. You can get your snowmobile gear, motocross, your lifestyles gear. And of course, if you're local, you can go into Ron's Point S, Ron's Motorsports over in Idaho Falls. You can get glasses at any of the Good to Go stores, also at Bill's Bike and Run.
Yeah, that's a lot. No excuses. All right. It is freezing cold outside, and you need some of this apparel to stay warm. Single digit temperatures in East Idaho. Right. Very, very chilly right now.
When I drove into work today.
Yeah. It's not good. That's for sure. What is good is all of the basketball action, because we're going to start with girls basketball first, Lance, and then we'll dive into boys hoops this week because we're at the finish line here. A lot of teams have one, maybe two games left in the regular season. Some teams are already done as district play will start actually this weekend for the 1A D2 Rocky Mountain Conference. That actually starts on Saturday. Everybody else will get going early next week.
That's right. We're ready for it. I mean, the girls' season, the questions have been answered. as far as who we feel will come out on top in those district tournaments. And so then it's just a matter of them stepping up and proving they can do what they're supposed to do. But I think most of them are pretty clear cut.
Yes. So let's start at the 1A D2 level because that district tournament is the one that will actually get started first. So if we take a look at the bracket, and I'll try to pull it up here on the screen, but it might be hard because it's a Microsoft Excel. I'm going to try and share my screen here on the video so people can see what the bracket looks like, and otherwise we'll just follow along with it, and we'll kind of just break down how we think this tournament might go. But here's a look at it. And again, you'll want to make it, full-sized on your video screen if you're watching this. But here's the bracket. It starts January 29th, this Saturday. The first round of games will be at the higher-seeded opponent, and then they'll move to Hillcrest High School for the rest of the tournament. But Rockland, the number 1 seed, they'll play number 8 Clark County. North Gem is the number 4 seed. They'll play number 5 Water Springs. Number 2 Mackey against number 7. Oh, that's an old one. Hold on. I got to make sure I got the right one. That's not the correct one. But Rockland is the number 1 seed, Lance. Kearsley Boyer, Ember Farr, a great 1-2 combo inside. They're going to be awfully tough to beat in this district tournament.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Rockland, I think, is not only your heavy favorite going in, but there's a reason why they're your heavy favorite. I mean, they start out with Clark County, who they held to 1 point earlier in the season. And as they move on, I just think Rockland's got all the pieces to the puzzle, and I just don't think any other team in that conference has the pieces that it's going to take to beat them. Yeah.
So here is the correct bracket here. If you look, because there were a couple of league games that were played up to last night. So this is the official bracket. Rockland, the number 1 seed. They'll play number 8 Clark County. Number 4 Mackey against number 5 Water Springs. Leadore gets the 2 seed. They're going to host number 7 Grace Lutheran, and North Gem slips to 3. They will play number 6 Showband. Leadore kind of quietly came out of nowhere, and they have been playing really well down the stretch, Lance. I think they're kind of a dark horse. I think coming in, though, you would say Rockland is probably the favorite, followed by maybe North Gem or Mackey. I mean, it's going to be a good battle between North Gem, Mackey, and Leadore for that second spot to state.
Well, and they've beat Leadore by right around just under 20 the first time, beat them by 20 the second time. Speaking of Rockland, they go undefeated in conference and really failed to get pushed, to the limits. So I just think they're one of those teams that, you got to call it how you see it. And right now, they would have to, if everyone in that conference plays their best is by far better than anybody else's best right now. And I think for anybody to step up and knock them off, particularly in a district tournament and the format in which they're ran, you've got to play multiple games at your best and hope that Rockland plays about half.
Yeah, I think if we look at Ledor's resume, as it were, this will kind of sum up the way the tournament's probably going to go perfectly. And Janet Pruill, in her second year as the coach at Ledor, has done a fantastic job. They're 16-4. They're 16-4 overall. They've lost to Rockland twice in pretty decisive games, 54-37, and then 51-31 on Tuesday night. Otherwise, their other two losses came to Mackey and North Gem. Basically the home teams won everything. Mackey won in Mackey, North Gem won in North Gem, and then Ledor beat the two of them when they had to travel to Ledor. So that's about as even Steven as it gets.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think the battle is for second place in that conference right now, because I think hands down Rockland is the one. And I'm not trying to diss on any other programs. I'm not saying those other programs are not worthy. We're just talking about where they fit against a very good Rockland team.
Right. So let me ask you, Lance, because two teams will get to go to state from this district. Who gets that second spot?
I think Ledor does. I think Ledor steps into that second spot. I particularly think Ledor is in the right mindset right now. It's been a while for them, and I think Ledor's ready to take the step.
How cool would that be?
That would be awesome.
That would be. They struggle with low numbers every year. It'd be tremendous. I'm going to say Mackey. They come in as the 4 seed. They had to forfeit a couple of games because of illness, and they weren't able to make them up on the schedule, so it counts as a forfeit in the league standings. They've had a couple of head scratching games this year, but I still think talent wise they've got Megan Moore inside. They've got some great players on the perimeter. They've been to state the last couple of years, and I just think the tough part is they're by slipping to 4, they're on the same side of that bracket as Rockland. So they're either going to have to dethrone the champs or fight their way through the back door. But I think I'm going to go Mackey. I'm going out on a limb there.
Yeah, and I just think, it very well could be. I just think with Ledor, you're looking at a team that won 10 of their last 11 games, that single loss coming to Rockland. They beat Mackey earlier in the season, 56-39, or a few games ago, 56-39. I just think it's one of those Ledor teams that they're ready. And Ledor has won a state championship before as well. So,
yes. Okay, let's move on to the 1A D1 Rocky Mountain Conference, or the High Desert Conference. Three-team affair: Butte County, Grace, Chalice. The big question is, can Grace break through and knock off Butte County? The Pirates are undefeated. They're the only undefeated team left in the state at the 1A D1 level, 19-0 overall. They've already beaten Grace twice in the regular season. What do you think, Lance?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. Yes, I think they can. It's going to be, I think this will be a much more competitive tournament than what we will see in the 1A D2s. To be honest with you, I just think it's going to be much, much more competitive. And again, coming through, you got an undefeated Butte team. And, as you look at these matchups, they had a close one with Grace. That was back on January 21st. They ended up beating them by about 15 back on January 12th. But Butte's a very good team. But, Grace is a team that could potentially step up and knock them off. I'm going with Butte.
Yeah, I'm going to go Butte too, but you saw the improvement, right? Grace lost by 15, and then 2 weeks later only lost by 5, 44-39. So
that's right.
They've got such a good coach in Kyle Christensen that they just, they could be peaking at the right time, but I'll go Butte County there as well. 2A, Nuclear Conference. This is a league that will get 2 bids to state. Ryrie won the regular season title, 14-6 overall. North Fremont, West Jefferson are 2 and 3. And I think Ryrie's the favorite here, but that second spot is going to be very interesting. I think even Firth could be sneaky in this one.
Firth possibly could. I don't see them stepping up and doing it. I'm picking Ryrie right off the bat. I think Ryrie's going to win this tournament. I don't think it's going to be much more. I think it's going to come down to North Fremont and West Jefferson for that second spot to get in. And if I had to take the two, I mean, it's a toss up right now. But if I had to drop money on it, which again, disclaimer, I don't. I just use that as an example. I would take North Fremont.
This tournament will get started next week, and this is a tournament that doesn't use a neutral site at all. It is all at the higher seed. So Ryrie
used to use a neutral site. They played it for years at South Fremont High School, and then recently have gone to the neutral site.
Yeah, so I mean, Ryrie will have a big advantage in terms of home court. That will start Monday. So, and again, this is like a lot of the 5-team districts in East Idaho where the number 1 seed will play the number 5 seed right away. And if they win that, they get a bye all the way to the championship.
Yep, they do.
Ryrie will play Salmon in their tournament opener there. 3As. This is, I mean, hey, it's Sugar Salem's world. We're living in it. They're 17-2 overall. I mean, not a ton to discuss there. They'll win their district tournament.
Yeah. They'll win it handily. Then you've got, the interesting thing is who goes into a play-in game, and who potentially gets there, because we're looking at District 5 as well, and I think District 5, I really think Snake River handles that district, but right now I don't know if Teton or South Fremont could potentially beat a Marsh Valley.
I do. I think Teton and South Fremont both I would take over Marsh Valley. Now, Snake River plays Marsh Valley Friday night in the regular season finale. Yeah. Snake won by nearly 30 the first time they played in girls hoops. So, I mean, something could happen there, but I think more than likely Snake wraps up that regular season.
I think Snake is better than Marsh Valley. I don't think Snake is 30 points better than Marsh Valley. Night in, night out. I think they might be 10 to 15 points better. And that gives a team, when you're talking 10 to 15 points, that gives a team, they step up and have a good game to potentially be in it. I think, the challenge with Marsh Valley right now is still the challenge that they had last year with their girls program. They just don't have a lot of height. If this was a 5'6" and under state championship, they'd probably win it. They're one of those teams, but they're a center away. Last year, I felt they were a center away from really maybe even being able to compete for a state championship.
Yeah.
And this year they're a center away from being able to win their district, I think. And
so when you start, I was going to say, so when you start to look at that play-in game, so the runner-up from District 6 will play the runner-up from District 5, and we're thinking that's going to be Marsh Valley against either Teton and or South Fremont. Marsh Valley lost to both of those teams in December, or at least December, early January. They lost to Teton 61-43. They lost to South Fremont 56-47. And then they lost to Teton a second time, 61-49, but came back to beat South Fremont 52-45. So if it's Teton and Marsh, I would say Teton.
Yeah. Teton, I think would take that. Teton's got fantastic athletes. They are so quick getting up and down the floor. I had a chance to watch South Fremont last night. South Fremont has some good shooters. They've got some really good outside shooters on that team. When they were open, they were good shooters. Sugar ended up mercy ruling them last night. But there were some really good things that South Fremont did later in the ball game. And if South Fremont can get open, South Fremont has some really good shooters from deep. Teton does as well. I just don't think Teton has as many. However, Teton gets into a play-in game, and if it's against Marsh Valley, again, boy, that's a good game. That's one to go and watch, actually.
Well, there's a game you'll want to watch Friday night as Teton goes to South Fremont in the regular season finale.
That's right.
Teton won the first game last week, 51-45, only a 6-point win. And that was at home. So we'll see how they do on the road. If Teton wins, they get the 2-seeded districts. If they lose, they and South Fremont tie. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure how they break that tie. I mean, they'll end up playing each other anyways.
Yeah. It's always a coin toss. The coin toss will just determine who hosts the game is what'll happen on that. So it's Monday night, and we already know that Monday night's game is going to be Teton and South Fremont. And then Tuesday night, Sugar will host the winner of that game. So that's already been determined. It's going to be home floor hosts, high seed hosts,
right,
in this conference.
Just got to decide where we're playing that game at Monday night between South and Teton. And again, the winner of that play-in game, the runner-up from District 5 and District 6, they then have to play a second play-in game against the second place team from District 4. And I think whoever survives from East Idaho, I think wins pretty easily.
Too. Yep. I don't think that game's really in question in my mind. Again, anything can happen. Games are played on the floor, not in my mind. Well, they are played in my mind. They're just not final in my mind. But I think whoever comes out, whether it's District 5 or District 6, that wins that play-in game, I think they go out and beat District 4.
Yep. And we joked about how the first play-in game is going to be more difficult than the second play-in game, probably. So,
yeah.
Well,
and sometimes that can cause a little bit of danger too. Sometimes you think, okay, we won the tough one. Now we can go in and we're just going to kind of go through the motions on this. And those are the games sometimes you get knocked off on. But
that's true. Those play-in games are weird. After the Firth boys lost to New Plymouth last year, I mean, I don't discount anything. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was a big time shocker.
All-time head scratcher for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. High Country Conference 4A. I mean, Blackfoot, undefeated, reigning state champs. Nobody has really come close. I mean, their toughest competition has come from the 5A ranks, right? Rigby and Thunder Ridge.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Preston has played them tough,
Yes.
Also at 4A, but I mean, Blackfoot. They are sensational. Again, I think this is another one. You're playing for second in the conference right now. I think that's exactly what you're doing, is playing for second in the conference.
Yeah, if Blackfoot and Burley don't meet in the state title, something has gone horribly awry. But who takes second? Skyline is really peaking right now, I feel like.
Skyline is peaking. And to be honest with you, I think I put quite a bit of thought into this. I really think Skyline is the team that comes out second place in that. And this is the reason why. They are peaking right at this time. I had a chance to see them several different times this year, and they're a very young team. When some of your best players are freshmen and sophomores, you're going to be the most different at the end of the season than a veteran team is from the first to the end of the season. And I think Skyline is that team. I think Skyline steps up and takes second place in that conference.
Yeah, Skyline is 10-10 overall, but 5-3 in the district. They finished with a non-conference game against Rigby. That'll be a really good tune-up, because Rigby is awesome, as we're going to talk about in just a second. But that tournament, the High Country Conference, gets underway starting on February 1st. So that is next Tuesday. And we like Blackfoot and Skyline there.
Well, and I think if you look at Skyline, you look at the way, they finished the season there. They ended up with that, 10-point win over Shelley. And, you see that they lost, back on January 15th to Sugar, 44-63 by 19 points. But that was a lot closer game than that most of the game. Skyline came out and played a very, very good first half. It was in the second half that Sugar pulled out and won that. And Sugar is the better team of those two. But I just think that you've got Skyline headed in the right direction.
I mean, the people will look at their 10-10 record at state and discount them, but they have played Sugar twice, Rigby twice, Thunder twice,
that's right.
Idaho Falls twice. I mean, that's a gauntlet of a schedule right there. So
that's right. It is. And again, anytime you have a young team that ends up getting into state and they don't necessarily have a great record, they were a much different team at the end of the season than they were at the first. They just have that most room to grow and to change. Kids have to learn how to play the varsity game.
Yep, exactly. Let's talk about the 5A ranks. Thunder Ridge, Rigby. Those are the two teams that'll be advancing to state. I mean, it's just a matter of who wins the district tournament. I mean, either one is capable. They've both beaten each other this year.
Yep. And I really don't know who to pick there. I just hope it's a good tournament. I think both are great teams. I mean, you got a 2-5 Madison, 2-5 Idaho Falls, and a 1-7 Pocatello as far as conference games go. Right. And I just think Thunder Ridge and Rigby, pardon me, have set themselves apart, and that's going to be a heavyweight brawl, is what that's going to be.
Yep. And I'm trying to see if they determine who gets the number 1 seed there. I mean, because they both beat each other and they beat everybody else in the conference.
Yeah. And I'd have to talk to Justin Jones, the athletic director at Rigby. In fact, I'll give him a call today anyway. And I've got to find out, exactly where they are set in that.
Yep. Either way though, I like Rigby. I think it's not anything more than just a gut feeling here, but I like Rigby to win.
Yeah, very, very well could be. I mean, it's one of those teams that, one of those, scenarios that any team steps up and wins. Oftentimes I'll look and say, hey, either of these teams could win, but if it's going to be a blowout, it's probably not going to be this particular team blowing the other team out. These teams, I just don't know. I truly don't know.
Yep. Let's move on to boys basketball, and we worked our way up from 1A to 5A. We'll work our way down in boys 5A down to 1A. Madison had the big rematch with Rigby last night. It was Wednesday. We're recording this Thursday morning. They played last night in Rexburg and came out with a 9-point win or a 7-point win, 51-44, which means they sweep the season series with Rigby in 2 really hard-fought contested games. But Madison, now 5-0 in the conference, 12-4 overall, will be the number 1 seed at districts.
Yeah, they will. And I think I think your top 2 teams out of this conference are going to be Madison and Rigby. But I think Madison has set themselves apart. Coach Humphrey's first year there. Jen Humphrey's doing a great job. I had a little chat with him the other night as well. He's got a good group of kids. They play hard. The results are there. They did have a tough loss against Pocatello about a week ago, or a little over a week ago, but Madison's a very good team. I don't think Highland is going to step up and really push to challenge that. Don't think Thunder Ridge is, and Idaho Falls is definitely not. I think it's those 2, and I think Madison at this point has set themselves apart, but not by enough to where I say district tournament. When it gets to that, that's a given. Right. for them. Obviously those games were not blowouts by any stretch.
Right. And I guess I shouldn't say that Madison has it officially wrapped up. They still have 3 conference games left in the regular season. 2 of them are against Highland. So who knows? Maybe Highland gets hot and knocks them off a couple times and Rigby sneaks in there. But either way, I mean, Madison and Rigby.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either, but you never know.
Dropping money on a table in Vegas on it. That's not, I don't see that happening. I mean, again, no disrespect to Highland. There's just a difference between those upper 2 teams and the rest of the conference.
Right. 4A High Country Conference, Hillcrest continues to cruise. Last week, they were the number 1 team, or I should say this week, they were the number 1 team in the coaches poll in 4A. They leapfrogged Middleton. And so they're the number 1 team in the state in terms of the coaches poll. 14-2 overall. They haven't lost since December 4th. They've won 13 games in a row.
Yeah, that's right. They haven't lost since that, down at that Utah tournament, where they started out beating Farmington, lost to Orem High School, as everybody else has, a nationally ranked team now, and then lost in a tight one to Corner Canyon, who hosted that tournament. Since then, they've run the gauntlet.
And I think we have to talk about, first of all, a non-conference game that they had last Thursday hosting Preston. Now, the first time they played Preston, it was a double overtime win, 63-60. The second time they played, I mean, they ran Preston off the floor, 61-44. But it opened a lot of eyes statewide to the point where Preston is no longer ranked in the polls.
Well, and what you had an Isaac Davis that didn't have serious foul trouble in the first half in this game as well, like he did down in the Preston game. And I think Hillcrest is not just better than everybody in their conference. I think they are in a different universe better than anybody in their conference.
There is, because I've had a chance to see all the big players at the 4A level play. the only team that could throw somebody at Isaac Davis and he would have to fight is Middleton. They've got Michael Day at 6'10", and they could even put Tyler Medeiros at 6'7" on him. In terms of other 4A teams that are anticipating, being at state, there really isn't a team.
Yeah.
I mean, Hillcrest is playing well. They still have two big non-conference games two big conference games against Shelley and Blackfoot. Blackfoot is still the team in second place at 3-1, 8-8 overall. Lance, I was on the call for Blackfoot's game against Shelley last Wednesday, and that was a tight battle. Blackfoot just pulled it out of the fire and won 46-43. Yeah. And I have to say, just using my eyes, Blackfoot is a team that was very undisciplined. They turned the ball over a ton. That you look at the talent and you think this should be an awesome team. And there's just something missing there. And I don't know what it is, but they turned the ball over a ton. They didn't really get into a rhythm or a flow. And are they the second best team in this conference? I don't know, because eventually you're going to get burned with the way they play kind of close to the margins.
Yeah. I just don't know on second place either. I just do know that Hillcrest is that much better than everybody else right now. And they've still got some heavy games coming up too. They didn't have a light schedule. I mean, you look at their out-of-conf schedule, they've still got Thunder Ridge coming up. They got Madison coming up. They got Rigby coming up again. They've still got to play those schools in their upcoming schedule as well. But I mean, they're a tested team. They are a tested team. And you know what? Shut Isaac down from the inside. It's going to nail 3-pointers on you all night long. Shut down their 3-pointers. Isaac Davis is going to dunk on you all night long. So it's kind of pick your poison.
I think this is the frustrating part about Blackfoot. They kind of walk through a very tight win against Shelley, and then they turn around and they blow out Skyline 74-59 last night. And so the talent is there. I mean, they are a good team. If they make it to state, whoever gets them in the first round is going to be in for a fight. And
I think that's definitely true. And really, in a lot of ways, we saw that in football too, where we felt they had a lot of talent there and at times failed to live up to that talent level, or failed to play to the talent level. And I think we possibly haven't seen that at its full extent either. However, Hillcrest is. They've played at that talent level, and they've consistently played at that talent level. I mean, even the 19-point loss to Orem, you're talking a nationally ranked team in Orem. You're talking a team that I watched them play Highland in the Christmas tournament here. And honestly, I looked there and there was no question in my mind. They could have dropped 130 points if they'd wanted to. I mean, they were that kind of a team. So this is speaking of Orem. So a 19-point loss to, by Hillcrest to Orem is not a bad loss.
Yeah, for sure. Hillcrest running away with it. Blackfoot, I begrudgingly say, is the second best team. It wouldn't surprise me if Shelley got that second bid to state, though. Shelley plays really solid, fundamental basketball. They have to grind it out on offense, and they like to slow the game down and feed it inside. But Shelley has impressed me. I've seen them.
Yeah, Shelley is another one of the teams. Their ups and downs. They're just so different. They blew out a Sugar team to start the season, and then they got mercy ruled by Sugar. In Sugar, it's just it's just kind of a different, it's a team that's up and down. One thing about Shelley that Shelley does have, Shelley's very long. They're very long. Now they don't have a long person that can really affect an Isaac Davis on the floor, but their length will affect pretty much any other team. Yeah,
and Alex Lott is a very good inside-outside player.
Yes.
He's phenomenal. So. All right, let's talk about District 5 in 4A. This is coming into the season. I don't think anybody had Century leading the conference at 2-0, maybe outside of Century High School. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying, because everybody said Preston, Pocatello, Century's kind of an afterthought, but here they are, 2-0 in the league, 13-3 overall.
I've seen each of these teams play this year. I'm telling you right now, Century is the best team in that conference.
That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, coming into the season, in the preseason coaches poll, they were picked a distant third. Preston and Pokey, every coach that filled out a ballot. Preston, Pokey, 1, 2. We're not really sure which order. Century third.
Yep. And I think Century's going to be the team. They only get one to go to state. I think Century's going to be that team.
Yeah. I
Led
mean,
by a
there's
freshman. Century's going to be around for a little while.
yes, they are very good. They've got a freshman, a couple sophomores, and some pretty good juniors playing.
Yeah.
The keys for Century, obviously Isaiah Harwell, the 6'5" freshman, gets a lot of attention inside. I would love to see him match up with Isaac Davis from Hillcrest. I think that would be fun. Two raw, powerful underclassmen. They didn't play Century this year.
Give people at completely different positions there. So they wouldn't end up really guarding each other in the game unless it was on a switch or something like that. But I think, if those two did match up and it was an inside matchup, Isaac Davis dominates that. If it was an outside matchup, Isaiah Harwell dominates that. I think it comes down to that.
That is the interesting question. If Century did play Hillcrest, who would guard Davis? Because you do have Harwell at 6'5". He is more of a perimeter player. Bruin Fleischman is 6'4". You probably put Bruin on him, I guess. But
you probably would. I think the challenge that Harwell would have against a Hillcrest is you've got some defenders who can defend him well on the perimeter. Harwell at 6'5", though, is able to get to the bucket. However, against a Hillcrest team, you get to the bucket, and you got an Isaac Davis waiting for you. So I think Hillcrest is the better of these teams. I think Hillcrest is the best 4A team in the state. Period. But I'll tell you what, Century is right up there. I'm very impressed with Century. They're just they pass the eye test, and they pass it really well. And that's got to be from top to bottom the toughest 4A conference in the state.
Oh no! I mean, no doubt about it. They would those three teams would win probably District 1 for sure, and finish second in almost every other, or threaten to win.
Yeah.
So real quick on Century as well. I was talking to my good friend Scott Gross. He's the radio broadcaster for all the Pocatello high schools. I haven't been able to watch Century a ton this year because there's limitations on which schools we can go to in terms of broadcasts and stuff like that. And Century is one of the schools that we can't go to. But he told me a real key guy for Century as of late has been Nash Harding, the 5'11" senior.
Yeah.
And I guess he's given them some really good minutes and has been just kind of doing the dirty work for this Century.
Yeah. Harding's actually a very good ball player. He's not big, but he's very good. And he is a lockdown style of defender too. So he can give you some props there as well.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting to see finally Century beat Pocatello in that first game and kind of opened some eyes. And then last night they hosted Preston, and this was the game, right? And they ended up winning by 2, 45-43. And so a tight battle. Preston is still going to be around. And I think even Pocatello, you can't discount. Pocatello went down to Preston and got a big road win last week. Yeah. If you told me that Preston would be 0-2 in the conference, I would have said you're crazy, right?
That's right. Because we know how consistent they are. Whether their talent is up or talent is down, they're consistent. They're a tough play. But I just think that I just don't see right now anybody in that conference figuring out the Century riddle. It's a tough riddle right now.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got 2 conference games left. Here's how the schedule shakes out here. Friday night, Preston is at Pocatello. Then the following Wednesday, Pocatello is at Century. And then next Friday, it is Century at Preston. Those 3 games will determine the seeding for districts. I'm not sure it'll decide much more beyond that. I will say all these coaches will tell you that the regular season games, a win is nice, but winning at districts is what counts. And a team,
well, that's right, because that's what sends you the state.
Yes, and just because
this year when only one goes to state from that conference.
Right. And just because you lost to somebody in the regular season doesn't mean you're going to lose to them at districts. I will say it is very important to get that number 1 seed though, because that is one less game you have to play.
Yes, that's right. And again, this isn't one of those conferences we're looking at like we are with District 6. We're in District 6, we're looking saying everybody's playing for second place. This isn't the situation there. I think Century wins this conference. I think they win this and go and represent this conference. However, this is one I could look at, and I would never put money on that in Vegas because it's too good of a conference. That's just my pick based upon the eye test right now. I mean, 3 very well coached teams. I mean, when you got a Tyler Jones coaching, As a coach, you've got to prepare. You've got to prepare your team. And anyway, Century is my pick, but it could go one of three ways.
Yeah, Ryan Frost at Century is such an underrated coach. He very consistently gets the absolute best out of his players. He'll take a player that's a B and turn him into an A-. He'll take a player that's a C+ and turn him into a B. It's incredible to watch.
Yep. There's no question about it.
Yep. One last note on Century, and then we'll move on. I promise. They've installed this kind of 3/4 court press, and since they've done that, they have been almost unbeatable as well.
Yeah,
which is a big key to their
success. I actually saw them do that in the game against Skyline at the Christmas Invitational Tournament. The Christmas Classic, and anyway, or Holiday Classic. Anyway, it was very good. That game was just a shellacking, from start to finish. I think the freshman Harwell had 5 dunks in that game. I mean, it was crazy. It was just they're a very, very good team.
Yeah. All right. 3A hoops, District 5, Southeast Idaho Conference. Snake River 15-2, Marsh Valley 13-2. Snake River did beat American Falls in their conference opener, so they're 1-0. Marsh hasn't played anybody yet. Those are the two teams. I think they both go to state as well, because it's just like the girls. Second place from District 5 will play second place from District 6. Winner of that will then play second place from District 4. Marsh Valley and Snake both going to advance to state. Snake River last week, Lance. Bob Coombs, the legendary coach at Snake River, picked up career win number 500.
Yeah. I was joking with him when they were up at Sugar earlier this year. I said, "Hey, is this like your 50th year at Snake River?" He's been there a long time, and their starting center, speaking of freshmen, is also a freshman. It happens to be his son. He's a very good freshman, 6'4" kid, plays very well under the boards as well defensively and offensively. But Coombs has done a great job there. But I think both those teams end up at state.
I guess the joke around Snake River has always been that Coach Coombs says he'll hang it up when his kids are done. And it's like, how many kids do you have? I mean,
I think this is his youngest.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's correct. Yeah. But anyways, that's incredible. And again, I don't know enough about the history of Idaho in terms of like all-time wins and stuff like that, but I don't know anybody that's got 500.
I'd have to check that out as well.
Yeah, I'd have to do a deep
possibly
dive.
Terry Jones. Terry Jones might have. I'll have to check and see.
Yeah. I mean, you know the history a lot more than I do, Lance. So that would be interesting to me to see what sort of contemporaries, what kind of class he's in terms of career wins. So yeah, I think both Marsh Valley and Snake River get to state. They're finally going to play each other. I mean, coming up pretty quick here. They're going to play next Wednesday and then the following Friday. So next week we can finally dissect a Marsh Valley Snake River matchup. Yeah. My question to you is, who wins the Mountain Rivers Conference? Teton, Sugar, South, all pretty meh to me.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. I mean, home court advantage is going to be key, I think, in that. Again, they're like the girls that high seed hosts. We'll get the first crack Saturday. Sugar and South will play. And then Teton, I can't remember if they play South or Sugar right off the bat the following week, but that's a toss-up conference. I think the winner of that conference tournament is the only one that goes to state. I don't think they get in through the playing game. I think that goes to District 5. I think District 5 is just that much better in their top two than the top two are for the Mountain Rivers Conference. However, you do have a game tonight at Snake River. Sugar at Snake River. Sugar's already beat them once this year, and we'll see what happens tonight as well.
Yeah, here's the breakdown of the schedule. Thursday, January 27th is when we're recording this. Tonight, Teton is at South. And then Saturday, South is at Sugar. And then we get into next week, and you have on Wednesday, it is Sugar at Teton. And then Friday, it is South at Teton. And then it wraps up the following Friday with Teton at Sugar.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the outcome of the Teton South game today. I will not be at the Sugar Southwind on Saturday. I'll be up at a show for Pure Adrenaline Motorsports up in Cascade, Idaho. But again, there are so many questions right now that I just don't have any answers. It is, I don't know. Next week in our show, we'll know, or at least we'll have some answers. Right now, it's just all questions.
Right, for sure. All right, Lance, let's move on to the 2A, and I'm going to have you break down the nuclear conference first while I make a quick. This is going to be really fun for listeners of the podcast. This is going to be behind the scenes. The mouse, my computer mouse just died, and it's a wireless computer mouse. So I've got to make a switch. I've got a hardwired one that plugs directly into the computer that'll help me navigate my notes here for the podcast. But tell me about this nuclear conference, because North Fremont, good. Ryrie, really good as well. And I think even Firth has been playing well.
Yeah, I think North Fremont's the team that's got to be knocked off. They're so consistent. They're so tough. I think after that, you've got a Ryrie team that has stepped up and proved a lot to people coming into the season. I think if we're looking at this from the first of the season and no schedule yet, and we're just kind of predicting, I think you go North, Firth, and then Ryrie. But Ryrie has really stepped up and showed some gutsy play this year, and then Firth after that. We'll know after Friday's game. We'll know a little more about Firth and North Fremont. Pardon me. Yeah, Firth and North Fremont they'll get their first of two meetings coming up, and that's going to be a tough one for both teams. That's going to be played at North Fremont. So Firth will go and visit them first. I think that one of the things you always have to look at with the North Fremont team is you talk about a team that is so fundamentally sound. And I know the North Fremont fans might get sick of me saying that because I've done a number of their games, but North Fremont is so fundamentally sound, and they just beat you when you make mistakes. They're the ultimate punisher when you make mistakes. They'll pass the ball around, pass around the perimeter, continue to reverse until you make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, they capitalize on it. That's just what North Fremont does. I think North wins this conference. I think it's a toss-up between Firth and Ryrie, but right now I would have to give that to Ryrie.
And that'll be the regular season finale, Friday, February 11th, North Fremont at Ryrie. What a game that's going to be.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting throw, won't it, for sure.
Meanwhile, Southeast Conference, West Side has kind of stepped up and said, yeah, we're the favorites to win this thing. They're 4-0 in the conference, very quietly 11-6 overall. They've just got athletes. They just lost to Marsh Valley by only 10. That's a pretty good loss. It
is. West Side's good. Just like they were in football. They just put athletes out there on the floor right now. They're not a head-topping team. They're not massive or anything like that. They just got a lot of good athletes. And I think that conference is going to come down to second place. And I think when it comes conference tournament time, I think your second place team is probably going to be Bear Lake.
Yeah, Bear Lake. Don't look now. 4-11 overall, but 2-1 in the conference.
That's right.
Like Soda Springs.
You and I talked about that at the first of the season. Talking like Soda Springs is girls.
Yes.
Absolute gauntlet. Of a schedule, and now they're undefeated in conference. You and I were calling that earlier on in the season. We're saying people are looking at their records saying these guys are horrible. You and I are looking at it saying, now these gals are pretty dang good. I think that's what you got with Bear Lake's boys as well.
Yeah. West Side so far has played everybody in the conference once. You know who gave them their toughest game, Lance?
Who?
Soda Springs.
Soda Springs, yeah, Soda.
The 6-9 Soda Springs Cardinals. West Side only beat them by 6.
Right. So. Yeah, Yamauchi has done a good job coaching them in his first year there, but I still think Bear Lake's your second best team in that conference. I think Soda's got to stand up and prove a little bit more at this point.
Well, we're gonna find out tonight, Lance, because Thursday night, the 27th, in Montpelier, Bear Lake hosts Aberdeen for the first time this year. Those are the two teams angling for second place. They will then meet in the regular season finale in Aberdeen on Thursday, February 10th. So the opening blow is going to be decided tonight.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to see Aberdeen this year as well. Aberdeen's a very good athletic team as well. Super good on the inside. They can play on the inside really well. They're quick on the perimeter defensively, but they're not great shooters on the perimeter. And so we'll get some questions answered tonight at below zero weather in Montpelier.
That's right.
I think it's supposed to be -10 there tonight or something.
That's brutal.
Wind chill shooting up from Bear Lake. So yeah.
No thanks. Okay. 1A D1s, Grace, Butte County. Grace is 11-4. Butte County's 9-4. Grace won the first matchup between these two teams, and we're still waiting for the rematch. That'll come next week, Friday, February 4th in Grace. So there's not a ton to talk about there. The first game, Grace won pretty handily, 59-41. That's a pretty large win, but we'll see what the Pirates can do next week. 1A D2, Rocky Mountain Conference, North Gem. Still leading the way. 11.
I'm telling you, I picked my Cowboys earlier this season, and got a little bit of flack for it. But I'm going with my Cowboys.
Well,
I'm just going to. Now, obviously, Rockland's good. Very, very good. But for some reason, I'm just I'm stepping out on a limb. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one.
We're gonna find out, Lance, because Friday night,
that's right,
tomorrow night in Rockland, North Gem. And the Bulldogs. That's going to be a good girls-boys doubleheader.
That is going to be. Are you covering that?
No. So we originally were going to, and then we weren't able to. So fans will have to find their own.
That'll be a score that everyone is going to be watching for. And just back to Grace for a minute in the D1s for their boys. I think Grace is the most likely team in the state to step up and take second place to Lapway.
Lance, they just beat the second best team in their conference, like 101 to
know.
Oh my! They won by 40
over 5A teams out of Washington, or equivalent of 5A teams out of Washington. This is a 1A D1 school. They are that good.
It's
the goal for any team going into the state tournament that's not named Lapway. And your 1A D1 is if you can do a game without getting mercy ruled, that is a victory, particularly in the championship game. If you can do the championship game without getting mercy ruled, they might just give you the number one trophy and say, Lapway, you failed. You didn't mercy rule these guys. Well, obviously, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to other teams. I'm not saying that'll happen. But I'm just trying to point out Lapway is that good. They are that good.
It is what it is at this
point.
They
might be the best team. I'm not saying this for sure, but they might be the best team at any school size in the state of Idaho.
Yeah.
They might be.
It's going to be pretty interesting to watch them. And the one thing with Lapway that maybe you're saying there's a chance, like, oh, hey, maybe COVID will really impact this team and they'll get sick right around tournament time. Not like bad, but just enough to knock them. But here's the thing, Lance, they already had it. COVID already went through their schools.
Well,
that's out the window.
It did. And when you talk about the stars that need to align for someone to beat a team like that, when you have to start talking about a team would have to get really sick in order to get beat, you're talking about a pretty dang good team.
Yeah. I think so. All right. We'll wrap up the hoops talk there. Next week, we'll have some district action to actually break down and analyze. Yeah. And who knows, maybe even a bid or two will have been clinched to state by that point. So we'll see. That's on the girls' side. On the boys, still big regular season matchups. Yep. What's the broadcast schedule looking like, Lance? Are you at a game tomorrow night?
I'm actually headed up tomorrow to Cascade. But I'm on a bunch next week as well. And, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a fun next few weeks. That is for sure. But I think as we look at what's going on, this next week is going to answer a lot of questions as we get into district play for the boys, into significant district play for the boys, particularly when we're talking the 3A level, who are just getting to the point where they're playing district games now, because there's only 3 teams in each of those conferences, District 5, District 6. But I think that's good. And don't forget, you can stop in at Ron's Motorsports over in Idaho Falls. You can stop into any of the Good to Go stores. You can stop into Bill's Bike and Ride, stop into Pocatello Power Sports, and to Golden Spike Power Sports up in Ashton. Get your pure adrenaline motorsports gear.
Yep.
Or simply go to PureAdrenalineMotorsports.com.
Yes, absolutely. On the broadcast schedule for East Idaho game night tonight, girls basketball from the Taj McGrizz, Rigby against Skyline. That's the game we were talking about earlier, Lance. That's going to be on IdahoSports.com tonight. And then tomorrow we've got a pair of boys games, Firth at North Fremont. And then I'm going to be at the Taj McGrizz as Shelley takes on Skyline. That should be a fun boys basketball matchup as well.
That could actually be a good game. If there's a blowout in that game, it will not be Skyline blowing out Shelley. It would be Shelley blowing out Skyline. But I anticipate it'll be a close game. A
lot of good action. And, of course, you can see the full breakdown of everything going on by clicking on the Game Streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Thanks for tuning in to the East Idaho Prepcast, brought to you by Pure Adrenaline Motorsports. For Lance Taylor, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the competitions, everybody, and we'll see you back here next time on IdahoSports.com.